Gracie, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hey? What are you doing? Hey? What are you doing? Hey everybody, welcome back to Hart Talks. Well, today I'm going to talk about diabetes, and a lot of you have asked me about my diabetes, about what diabetes is, about how it all works. Diabetes is a disease that affects the pancreas. There's two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is the one that I suffer from, and it is the more severe one. Both of them are serious, but type 1 is the more severe one. Basically, the pancreas, which is a picture I'm going to put up here, it's this ugly little organ, but it's amazing what it does. This thing produces insulin. Now, insulin is the hormone that we need to keep our glucose levels in our body at a good rate. Now, we all need glucose in our body because that gives us energy. But we have to have a certain amount of glucose, because too much glucose is very dangerous and too little glucose is also very dangerous. So it's about getting that level correct. And usually a normal person's pancreas produces enough insulin for whatever you're eating or whatever exercise you're doing, so you don't have to worry because your body is automatically regulating the amount of insulin that you need. And with diabetes, the body doesn't do that. So what I have to do is I take two different types of insulin. I take this insulin, the orange insulin, which is called Nova Rapid, and that one is the short-acting insulin. So that means that it only stays into my system for a certain amount of time. This is my Lantus. It's the long-acting insulin, and it's the one that obviously is long-acting. It's in the body for longer. So I have to take the relevant amount of insulin for the amount of food that I'm eating. So every meal that I eat, I have to weigh up how many carbohydrates are in it and match that up with the amount of insulin that is needed to keep my blood sugar at the correct level. Now, the blood sugar doesn't always stay at the correct level, and this is where it gets risky. If the blood sugar is too high, that is called a hyper. So hyper goes up, and hypo is when it's too low, it goes down. So hyper goes up and hypo goes down. Let's talk about hyper first. So hyper, it means that there's too much glucose in the body, and basically your blood sugar levels are rising and rising and rising, and they're getting to a dangerous level. And there's different things that it can affect. Personally, when my blood sugar's high, I feel very jittery and I can't really sit still. My bones start to ache and my vision goes blurry. So that's what happens to me with a hyper short term. Long term, it's dangerous because it can affect your eyes, your feet, you can get bad circulation and you can lose limbs. And you can also get problems with your heart and your kidneys. So it's serious. It's not, you have to keep a close eye on it all the time. When you go hypo, this is something that I've suffered from a lot. Hypo, you go low. So when you go low, it's blurred vision, it's dizziness, it's confusion, and it's not just like confusion, you can be scared of the people that are closest to you, you can think that everybody's trying to attack you, it's really scary. On those cases, you have to make the glucose go up. So I would take a sugary drink, something that's really sweet. I take Lucozade, Gatorade type drink. The thing about hypo is that if you don't treat it, you can slip into a coma and you can die. It happens, and it happens regularly. So It's something that really has to have a close eye kept on it. I'm wearing a monitor at the moment on the back of my arm, and it helps monitor my blood sugar. So I've got a little box and it tells me where my glucose is at that time. And I'm still taking injections. I'm currently trying to sort out going on to an insulin pump, which is continuous intravenous insulin. Just goes onto your stomach, and it just feeds the insulin in, and you can stop it and start it depending on what your blood sugars are. Other things about diabetes that you have to be aware of is that everything you eat when you're diabetic will affect your blood glucose. Certain things are excluded, cheese and other things. You know, there's a few things that you can eat without worrying, but the majority of things all have carbohydrates of some kind in them, or sugars, and they will push your blood sugar up. So anything that you eat has to be monitored and has to be counteracted with a suitable amount of insulin. So you have to be on guard, and you have to be counting things and making sure that if you have that slice of birthday cake, you know, at work, or if you have a Kit Kat, or if you know, decide to have, you know, something that is not in your normal diet, that you have to account for it. Without accounting for these things, then you can really get yourself into trouble. I was diabetic for 40 years, and then I had my pancreas transplant, and anybody that hasn't seen that video can check it out up here. I had a pancreas transplant and it took away everything, and it was wonderful. It was tough because it made another problem, another diabetes related issue worse, but what it did was amazing, because all of a sudden, I'd never had that in my life where my pancreas would produce the insulin for what I was eating. So for 3 years it was amazing to not have to have insulin, to not have to check my blood sugars, to not have to do all those things. It was brilliant. And unfortunately my pancreas transplant failed in December, and I can't have another one. So it's hard because it took away that fear of diabetes and, you know, the hypos and the hypers. It took away all that fear. So for it to come back is hard, because I know what it's like to live without it now. Because I was so young when I got it originally, I was only 3, so I didn't know what it was like to not have diabetes, but now I know what it's like to not have diabetes. So just hopefully things will progress in the next few years, and they'll be able to make pancreases that don't have to be fitted inside your body, you know, who knows. Now, without taking insulin, you would die. You have to be very aware of what can happen, because it's serious. You know, I've lost one friend to diabetes in my life already, and you know, it can be a tough thing, and you can also get further complications from diabetes. Now, I suffer from neuropathy, which is a nerve disorder in my hands, in my arms, and in my legs and my feet. A lot of time I can't feel my right foot when I put it down on the ground, because the nerves in my feet have been affected by all these years of being diabetic. I also have horrendous gastroparesis, which has been a real problem for me over the last 3 years, definitely. Nausea, vomiting, all those things that go with your stomach, you know, food not being processed properly, overgrowth of healthy bacteria, all these things that come from gastroparesis. So that's really tough as well. As I said earlier, you can lose limbs. You know, I've always been so careful with care of my feet, you know, because, you know, you get gangrene in your feet so easily, and that's it, you know, you're toeless. So, you know, you have to be really careful. And I'm sure that there's people watching this that are diabetic and that have diabetic people in their lives, and it can affect so many different things for you. My advice to anybody that is newly diabetic is just be careful. Just keep an eye on it. And I was always really good with my diabetes, except for one thing. You know, I think back now when I used to go out drinking and clubbing with my friends, which was for quite a few years. I used to drink a drink a drink called a Bacardi Breezer. So obviously it was Bacardi rum with some kind of fruit juice in it, and I used to drink the watermelon ones, and I used to end up with these huge big red watermelon lips. I've got a picture somewhere. I'm going to try and post it up here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it, but if I do find it, it's up here now, and if I don't find it, well, believe me, it's probably something you didn't want to see. But things like that, you know, had so much sugar in them, so I know that I just wasn't monitoring the amount of sugar that was going into my body through those alcoholic drinks. And that's not to say that's what's brought on all the problems that I have now, but, you know, those things don't help, so keep an eye on everything that you're putting in your mouth, basically. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this little insight into diabetes. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to know if there's any questions, because if I can answer any questions on diabetes, I would love to be able to. What else? As always, like, comment, share and subscribe. If you know anybody that's diabetic, please pass this video on to them. Maybe it will come in useful. And look after yourselves, be good, take care, and I will see you very soon. Take care.